Hey everyone, welcome to the DXdao community call for May 20th of 2021. Following the success of the previous call, we'll be once again focusing on some certain topics, followed by open discussion. As a reminder, after each presentation, there's a window for anyone to ask questions or share their thoughts. The mic is open. In the event that there isn't, I do have some questions left by community members that are unable to attend the call. Without further ado, let's hop right into it. Starting with Swapper mainnet and DXdao deposits. Chris, maybe you can share some light on those.
Yep. So this is an ongoing initiative that we've been doing for the last 6 weeks or so, and that's seeding liquidity into Swapper on mainnet and Swapper on DXdao. So on mainnet, we just have the ETH DAI pool, and there's about $1 million worth of liquidity there. But on DXdao, we have about $2.4 million in liquidity, and that's across 4 different pairs: the the WETH DXdao pair, the USDC DXdao pair, the WETH DeFi Pulse Index pair, and the WETH WBTC pair. And we've done 3 different deposits into Swapper on DXdao, and it is a pretty complicated governance process to do that because it requires a proposal on mainnet to get the ETH fund, get the ETH, and then the funds have to be bridged over. We do this through a multi-sig that's controlled by some rep holders, and then we have to deposit them into the DXdao base on DXdao, and then there has to be 2 separate proposals that actually send those funds and deposit them into Swapper as an LP. It was exciting to do them this last weekend because we had 4 different pairs that were added, and they all had majority votes. So there was 50, I think 20, over 20 voters for each of those that were able to deposit those funds there, and it's been really helpful in terms of Swapper volume over the last week or so. There is 2 posts that I made this week in the forum about continuing the Swapper deposits. So obviously DXdao has a significant treasury, a lot of ETH in there, and so discussion on whether we should be continuing to seed liquidity into Swapper on mainnet and DXdao, and if we are to do it, what pairs to do it. And so be interested to hear if anyone has thoughts on that or any other questions about the Swapper deposits. Just as a note, for Swapper has, I think, broken its all-time high for volume each of the last 2 days, and I think is doing over $600,000 in volume just over the last 24 hours. So it's been a pretty great week, really month for Swapper.
Perfect, thank you. Any immediate questions there? I do have a couple on my end that were left with me. First being, how do you plan on balancing liquidity deposits as Swapper deploys on additional chains?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the core identities or features that has been developing with Swapper is the multi-chain component of it. So I think it's very important to be able to have Swapper on multiple chains. Obviously, Arbitrum is the one that the community is building up for now, and to go along with it, to have liquidity that is seeded on that. And I think what DXdao has done with DXdao is a good model to be repeated on other chains, and by providing liquidity in a WETH DAI pair and then a USDC DXdao pair and then a WETH WBTC, you provide some general liquidity to make Swapper like a functional, a nice, really great to use to do some simple trades. And then with the eco routing feature, you can trade any token that's accessible on that chain. But I think a key part of that is having that liquidity on there. And I think now that we've done that with DXdao and done the process there, we should feel comfortable in doing a similar process, maybe quicker in terms of moving it onto Arbitrum, and just to support some of the underlying liquidity there.
Awesome. And another question on my end Is the primary goal here to drive volume through liquidity or fees to the treasury?
I think the goal is to attract users, right? Whether that's traders or liquidity providers and attention. But I think the liquidity helps with that because it makes it more easy. Obviously, you can do larger trades, and it makes it like a more functional platform. I think revenue is important for Swapper, and I think we've actually had a pretty good month in terms of developing some of the fees, both for the treasury and then also the protocol fee. But I think like right now and maybe Zet or anyone else can speak to it, but like trying to attract users.
I think like looking at the development of the features we're doing, we opening up the product not only for making revenue directly, right? We actually try to attract users, and like the router is feeless. The router we don't take any extra fees, and then we're also looking at the potential to actually do it-yourself farming with other LPs than Swapper LPs. So there's even more like possibilities to make Swapper like useful for a lot of users, and then be useful as a product, and then starting doing revenue on those.
Cool. And while I have you, Zet, there is an open question later that I think might fit in here now. Is there an update on the Swapper beta timeline?
Yes.
I can speak to that because what's held it up is the auditing schedule. So we had, the test went great on DXdao, and I think the features are basically ready for the UI. There was some churn on the smart contracts, just like we had made changes, and it was like the third time that we had sent some like kind of small delta of changes back to the auditor, and so we made the decision to kind of commission like a full audit of it over again, and we've also had some review from Blackscale, which has been great. So we just decided to slow it up a little bit in order to get a full audit done. That should be complete on Monday. I don't anticipate any major changes coming out of that since it has been reviewed before. So it's really just out of caution to make sure it's secure because we expect it to be holding a lot of funds. And so if that comes back and we can respond to those changes, should be ready mid next week.
Perfect. Thank you. Any other questions on the Swapper liquidity deposits or Swapper beta? I see Thurfnoob is typing.
Yeah, maybe I can speak actually. Hello.
Hey.
Yeah, I wanted to know Swapper beta. So what is expected for the final version compared to the status of things that we currently have with beta?
You mean like Swapper beta, let's say V3 or V4, just before we go on the full version of Swapper? Is that the question? Or are you asking?
Yes, that's the question. Yes, are we planning to add features, or this is the beta stands just for testing version?
So I would say, yeah, that's actually a good question. I would say the major difference would be adding like more networks to it. So we're planning to launch on Arbitrum, right? And with Arbitrum launch comes also like the incentive program that we will start, and hopefully in time we will have the Swapper token. So I would say like feature wise, I wouldn't say there's big difference, but in how like the amount of like marketing and amount of things we like the money from treasury coming into Swapper will increase for each version, right? So this is the thinking, like V1, beta V1 will go in with some money into the treasury, from the treasury into the pools, and then we incentivize and hopefully we'll have the Swapper token ready and incentivize with the Swapper token on more networks and adding more markets. And so the idea is just taking stuff step by step instead of doing big releases.
Awesome. And I actually have one more question related to that. It says, Swapper seems to want to deploy on as many chains as possible. Is there any plans for after Arbitrum, Binance Chain, or Solana maybe?
We are talking about this actually. And so this one thing to like keep in mind here, we could launch on like all the networks. We could do what SushiSwap is doing, and but there's some things to think about, and like we have a belief at DXdao, and we believe in decentralization, and if we don't believe a specific network is decentralized enough, maybe we don't launch, and maybe we don't like. Maybe we launch, but maybe we don't put up liquidity ourselves, right? But at the same time, we're thinking like, do we want like Swapper users to use that network if we don't believe in the decentralization of it? So there is some questions we try to ask ourselves, but at the same time, we want more users. We want users to find us and get on to the real like decentralized networks. So yeah, yes and no. I can't like really say we gonna launch on these networks, but there are ideas of like bridging them over, right? Funnel them from these networks over to like real networks. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Last opportunity for anything related to the Swapper liquidity deposits or Swapper beta here. Awesome. Moving on to the next topic, related to the DXdao community competition for some new Omen markets. Maybe Sky want to shed some light on that.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Keenan. So big picture is Omen is a pretty permissionless, community-driven prediction market platform, right? And already anyone in the community can come and create markets on there, add liquidity, and start using it. But you know, there's the idea is that there's a lot of community, like prediction market interested people out there in different communities and across the world that may not know about Omen just yet. And so the idea of we had an Omen Markets community competition like maybe 6 months ago, and so this is the second round of it, like an expanded version. And the idea is to like get the community interested and proposing like what they think the best markets would be to have on Omen, and sourcing those from the community with incentives. And so the incentives for this competition are like $10,000 and 5,000 reputation in DXdao. And so the idea is to spread this out, make everyone aware of it, market it around, get as many people to enter interesting markets into the competition, with the chance to win money and reputation. And then the entry period will, if this proposal passes, which I can paste in the chat, will start. You beat me to it. Entry period will start on May 23rd, early next week. There'll be like a 10-day entry period, and then our goal is that there's 100 or more different interesting markets that are entered from the community, and then at that point it's rep holders using this Alchemy competition scheme, who basically it's their responsibility to vote on and pick what people think will be the best 10 markets to create and fund on Omen, and those will be the award winners of the prize money as well. And so it's kind of it stays in line with Omen being a community driven product. It's a cool, unique way to source markets from the community. And if people have ideas and they haven't created the markets on Omen themselves, entering this competition is a great way to get your market onto Omen if it wins, and get it funded with some liquidity as well. And so that's the kind of overview and big picture of what the Omen market competition is. Yeah, but it's mainly to source really good markets out there, and it's a pretty open competition. Like there was talk of creating certain categories and all different kinds of like parameters for entries, but the idea is, people can enter as many markets as they choose. Hopefully, maybe there's people out there that come up with really new and interesting markets that aren't on other platforms and haven't been on Omen. And so already Omen's pretty open compared to like another, another version like Polymarket. Like no one in the community gets to decide what market goes on to Polymarket, right? But with Omen, anyone can put a market onto Omen, and anyone can enter a market into this competition to get your market on Omen. So like openness and community are two of the main core values of Omen and DXdao in general. So excited to see what people enter, and then excited to also really educate and have the people that will be voting on the competitions really think about which of these markets like really make sense for like winning the competition and putting those markets on Omen, and how LPs will behave for those markets, and if users will be attracted to those markets. So yeah, that's the big overview. If anyone has any questions or ideas or inputs, that would be great to hear.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sky. First question from Snufkin in the chat for those listening. What about already existing markets? Do they count as entries?
Ones that are already on Omen? No. Well, the way the competition scheme works is you need to enter your market into the actual Alchemy competition entry fields. Now, you can take, if there was a past market and you want to adjust that for like a similar market, but for future, a future period or something, that seems like that could be an interesting market. So like, yeah, any ones that are already on there wouldn't count in this competition, but feel free to make adjustments for future markets based on ideas. And those ideas could be on Omen, those ideas could be on other prediction market platforms, even centralized ones like Predicted or whatever like that too. So you can borrow ideas from other platforms as well.
Awesome. And Sarniak in the chat says, is there a max amount of entries per account? And it looks like Nylon already says no.
No.
Presumably,
I mean, this is not Sybil resistant, so you couldn't limit it anyway. So yeah, there isn't like limited amount.
Yeah, we hope that no one spams the competition scheme, obviously, but the competition scheme is pretty open in terms of entries.
And related to a question that I had prior to the call, can I win more than once? I guess that's implied based on the ability to enter more than once. Is that right?
I think yes. As of now, okay. So voters, the rep holders who are voting, can see different people and different wallets that enter competitions, and the only one, someone with, and actually in the first competition, I think someone won 2 of the 3 winners. But yeah, if someone really has the 10 best markets, they should win all the prizes. The one thing would be if someone basically copies someone else's market, you can see an order of the entries. So if there are if there were 2 of the same markets, the first person to enter that market would probably be the one that people should vote on instead of the second person who entered that market. So that's really up to the voters to take into account the fact that someone already entered that market. But yeah, I think that a person should be able to win multiple markets for sure. It's like one of the best markets.
Awesome. And I think you inadvertently answered a second question I had. What happens if someone submits a duplicate answer? Just to clarify for them, it's kind of up to the rep holders to decide. They have visually who submitted first. I suppose if there's two that are similar in nature, it would be more of a decision process on which one is a better market by rep holders. Is that right, Sky?
Yeah. So in general, like the exact language on markets like takes a little bit of expertise, and so even the winners, like the ideas and that come out of this market, but when these markets are funded, there may be like slight, edits or whatever to like correct the language or typos or whatever, just to make sure that the market is positioned the way a market should be. And so, yeah, if there's like if there's duplicates, like the first one should be the one that is voted on to win. But if like before these are created and funded, I'm sure that there could be like slight edits and things. So like there were typos and things in the last competition, and that's always going to happen. But it's really up to the voters to really pick the best markets.
Awesome. And Lead Parachutes in the chat asks, how was DXdao planning to collab with Polymarket and Augur?
So at this point, I don't, there's not necessarily collabs going on. There's a little bit of probably friendly competition. I think there's been scenarios where they've borrowed some of Omen's markets, and Omen people may have put some markets that are on other platforms onto Omen as well.
Yeah, so we are planning. Do you guys hear me without any DJ music?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, so they are definitely the fact that Misa is delayed means that we are actually allocating more into airdrops from the community allocation for the Omen token, which is still not ratified by the DXdao, but it is proposed, or it's on DAO and with friendly airdrops, we actually just want to like send a happy invite to Polymarket users and to Augur users. That's like the first step we're gonna take to actually say hello to all those like prediction market enthusiasts.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you. I guess there's one last question I have left with me before the call. It's how much percentage of rep per winner in current configuration?
So 5,000 rep on DXdao is like a total of 0.5% rep. So it's like 4 times the amount of like a monthly contributor, or three times the amount, like divided between the winners. So it's not a huge amount of rep. It's really like it's more equivalent to like kind of rep boost size reputation. It's like get people people that are participating in the market, in the Omen space, like some rep to start getting involved in DXdao, and then ideally people start to like contribute more and can always earn additional rep. So it's almost like for hopefully for a lot of for the winners, it's like the first rep they actually get in DXdao, which would be cool.
Awesome. I see Lead Parachutes typing. Last couple questions here for the Omen competition. And Lead Parachutes just has a comment about an appearance overhaul between Omen to separate between Polymarket. Any questions before we move on?
So just to answer that, I think, I mean, the Omen team's always thinking about like improvements to Omen. It's technical has like a lot of the focus the last month or two has really been on Omen Guild and improvements on Omen. But I think like you want to mute that guy, Keenan, DAO Merchants?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like, yeah. Oh, different colors. So I think there is like a little bit of a revamping of like layout and potentially colors. Like over time, there could be.
Yeah, I can probably speak to that. I think I already said something in the last community call about like as a product manager of Omen, I consider Omen as like an MVP product. And now we actually have two products inside this like prediction market platform, which is the guild itself and the prediction market platform. So yeah, we're currently building like the MVP for the guild, which is kind of merging into the prediction market platform. So and that's still MVP from my point of view. And like based on all those learnings we had, I think there needs to be like I need to sit down and like really think about the structure of the product, which simplifies a lot of things, and also like there a lot of people do liquidity provision because it's first a very bad user experience, and second people lose money. So we need to figure out how to fix both of it. And my overall point is now that we had an MVP for the prediction market platform and will have an MVP for the guilds. I think then after that there needs to be like an Omen version 3 design package which needs to be prepared for the developers to actually like finalize the product, hopefully to a point where I literally don't want to do another redesign. And my goal is to actually achieve that, to actually focus on bridge integrations. Like I want to see BSC integrated into Omen so people from Binance Chain can deposit liquidity into Omen. On-ramps, fiat on-ramps. Like after that, my hope is that we actually can completely focus on user experience and fixing a lot of important things.
And Geronimo, one of the design efforts too that is on your plate is making it opening it up a bit, right, and making the dashboard style views in Omen kind of use up the real estate a little more. I think for some people it's like that first impression is kind of what they're actually thinking about when they're talking about the design.
Yeah, we have major issues literally everywhere. Like the most acceptable part is a market details view. The exploration of prediction markets is bad because the MVP was designed with the goal to be Uniswap style, which was in general like a bad idea because prediction markets are complex and you can't it was a bad idea to try to replicate Uniswap UX, something which is complex and is actually like a big financial product. We kind of need to break up the current structures so we have more real estate, because if you go to Omen right now, it's like it's a small box, which doesn't need to be a small box. So we need to break that up. We need to allow people to like easily explore markets. And like most importantly, it's still a bad experience to keep track of their markets, which also needs to be fixed. We had like technical issues, not technical issues, just like boundaries, because we actually we don't have a database. We use blockchains and we use GraphQL, which is just replicating the blockchain data structures. So yeah, and we're actually really trying to fix all those things to be on par with centralized prediction market platforms.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Anything else for Omen? See a few people typing. Thurfnoob asks, when Omen token?
So I think the only thing which stops, there needs to be a ratification of the proposal made by Tammy, right? Or by the Omen team. So once once DXdao actually ratified the plan to move forward, then from the product side of things, we actually we have a pull request which is almost finalized to claim Omen tokens via a model like similar to Uniswap. So from the technical sides, we already emerge a way to have that on Omen. But after the DXdao ratified the plan for the Omen token, we don't want to release just the token. We want to have the guilds in combination with the Omen token release, so people actually can use the token.
Awesome. Thank you. A little over half time here. Just going to take a quick checkmark break regarding the little POAP teaser we left in the announcement for this call. Anyone, and this is, I guess, the first place you'll hear this, anyone that is a DXD holder on, I believe, May 12th, I have to double check my dates, DXD token anniversary is eligible to a DXD anniversary airdrop. I'm just going to drop the link here for you guys. It's found on POAP.delivery. It's open indefinitely as long as you're eligible. You can claim it at any time, as long as you held DXD on the anniversary date. And we also accounted for LPs on mainnet and Swapper, Swapper mainnet and XDAI, Uniswap, Balancer, etc. So anyone that held DXD on the anniversary date, feel free to drop by, put your wallet in. It's free minting on XDAI. It can be transferred to mainnet if you'd like. You have something to say, Sky?
Interestingly, I forget the exact number of wallets, but it actually includes some wallets who held like 0.0001 DXD. So even they get a POAP.
Well, that'll be worth a lot of money some days.
Yeah, it's cool. The most POAPs are like you have to be at the event and you have to claim it at that time, and there's a Discord bot for that. But POAP delivery is a unique tool that was just improved by the POAP team, and it's normally used for like pretty sizable events and things where there's a list of qualified claimers. And so like Keenan said, this is anyone, you can claim it at any time, and obviously if you have DXD in say more than one wallet, you've gotten more than one POAP as well. So we'll see how many claim it. At some point we may have to put an end date though. Just might not want to leave it out forever. Make it more scarce.
Until the next anniversary.
Yeah.
All right, cool, guys. And any questions about that, feel free to shoot me a message or ask in the chat as well. Moving on, considering time, nearing on the last half here. The next topic is Swapper farming campaign for the beta launch. Chris, I believe, had the forum post for that. Maybe you want to shed some light.
Sure. Thanks, Keaton. Yeah, so this is in conjunction with the Swapper beta rollout. And so, one of the big features with Swapper Beta, of course, is the awesome do-it-yourself farming campaign. So DXdao is hoping to kind of showcase that and provide some rewards itself to kick that off and showcase the farming platform. So there's some discussion about what those rewards are, what pairs we want to do. And so I had made a post about this based on those discussions, primarily in some of the product strategy calls about a farming campaign for the DXD WETH pair on both mainnet and XDAI. So there's a link in the chat there, but just a brief description of it. So this is actually 4 separate campaigns that have a couple different features. So each chain would have 2 separate campaigns. They would both go after the same pair, the DXD WETH pair, but a LP would only be able to stake their token in one of the campaigns. So the 2 campaigns on XDAI is a multiple reward standard campaign that runs for 4 weeks that gives DXD and ETH. And then the other campaign is a multiple reward staking cap and time lock campaign. So the standard campaign, you'll be able to deposit your funds and farm and stake and unstake whenever you'd like. But for the staking cap and the time lock, the features on that actually require you to keep your LP tokens staked up for a certain amount of time. And then the staking cap limits the amount of tokens that can be staked. So it's kind of like, it's a big requirement, of course, to lock up your tokens for a certain amount of time, but the pool is limited to the size it can get. So you could be confident that you would get a certain APY. So that's actually, those are the 2 campaigns that will target both the DXD WETH pairs on both XDAI and mainnet. And on XDAI, the campaigns are 4 weeks for the standard campaign and 6 weeks for the staking cap and time lock campaign. And on mainnet, there's 6 weeks for the standard campaign and 8 weeks for the staking cap and time lock campaign. So yeah, I think this is, and you can kind of see the APYs on there in terms of the target liquidity we're going for. Obviously, things change in terms of assets, the asset values at different times. So this will be just kind of a general target. But you can see that the types of liquidity amounts that we're going for, and I think this is important for building liquidity on Swapper, but also more importantly, I think perhaps building liquidity in the DXD WETH or the DXD ETH pair more broadly, especially on mainnet. So curious to hear any thoughts on these. We are also thinking about another campaign that Sky can talk about in a minute, but any thoughts, questions on this campaign proposal for the Swapper beta launch?
Looks like a question from Snuffkin. There's nothing to prevent someone to deposit full liquidity for the staking cap campaign, is there?
I guess not. Yeah, so that would mean, I guess, there's one big LP that would just come in and take everything.
Yeah, you can't. I don't think you can prevent that, because that person could just use multiple wallets anyway. If there was limited amounts for a wallet. Could lead to gas wars. This is experimental, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, and so it'll happen first on XDAI and then mainnet. So we'll kind of be able to see this. And so we obviously, this still haven't been proposals yet, but I think this is what seems to be the direction.
To Snuffkin's question, though, the good thing is there is the open one. There is the capped one, but there is also an open one. So anyone will be able to participate. It just may not be in the capped one, right?
Right. And it's a bigger risk to keep your funds locked up for that amount of time. too. So some people may actually choose to farm both.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Question from before the call. Why no focus on stablecoin pairs?
I mean, I think kind of going back to the discussion at the beginning about like trying to attract users. I think that's the goal of this, is to like showcase, both to showcase Swapper, and so I'm not opposed to stablecoin pairs. I guess it's just would that attract users? And we already have some stablecoin liquidity on Swapper through the DXdao liquidity. But I'd be interested, maybe we could target those.
I think it's important that we make the DXD liquidity bigger, because I think while we grow and while we release stuff, people will be interested in DXD token, and we need to have some liquidity on especially on mainnet. Even though we believe in like L2s, we need like people to be able to actually invest in DXdao, and giving them that entrance on mainnet makes sense. I think also like I wouldn't say like we don't focus on stable coins. It's just like this is what makes sense right now with a beta launch, and later on like what makes sense on like Arbitrum launch. And so we will see like different campaigns on different launches. I would say it makes sense to make the DXD liquidity bigger right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. And just because I think it's like focus on like what is the first ones we can kind of do now, and because these are all different proposals, we can launch campaigns like for anything. The next one that we were thinking about though was the work token. Maybe doing also sponsoring campaign with that, and Sky made a post about that. So I don't know, Sky, if you wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. So I guess in general, self-making farming campaign tool on Swapper is like pretty powerful for lots of communities out there. Now, that's not live yet, so creating like a use case or a case study showcasing like how a community could use it, and that this could be a project itself, or this could be the community on its own going out and doing something like this. But we were mentioning like a showcase pool, like an example of how you could take a token in the community that like a bunch of people are interested in, and with some incentives, which DXdao is going to provide, or in this proposal, like using DXD as an incentive token, launching and trying to build a pool around this token. And so in this case, the work token is a pretty interesting token that's natively on XDAI. It's a community token based on the Opolis system, which DXdao has some connections to through DX Ventures, and actually will be holding work token itself as a DAO. And there's a pretty wide distribution of people, like over 1,300 people that already have work token, that have been that have earned it, or it's been distributed to. Yet there is no significant work pool on any DEX on XDAI. So the idea would be to create this, a smallish incentive program to build this pool. And from discussions, we've chosen a work DXD pool for a number of reasons, versus like a work XDAI pool or a work WETH pool. And part of it would be to bring wider like awareness of DXD token in general to like this important community of holders that are already like in the XDAI community, and the kind of like are using Opolis, for example. So those are pretty, if you're using Opolis, you're already kind of like pretty deep in the space. And so, there's a little bit of a forcing function where where, to farm this pool, you'd have to acquire DXD in some way. And so that, could be on Swapper, that could be wherever. And you could start farming this pool with your work tokens and DXD. And with the incentive being in DXD, you can earn DXD. And that's like overall a great way to distribute DXD, get it into the hands of more people that would be in, I think, are relevant community members to DXdao and the XDAI ecosystem. And doing this all on XDAI is great. And then, that's kind of like the overview, and it will be a good experiment for if this kind of pool works. And then we can use that as a use case to spread that around to other communities that are looking to do liquidity, gathering around their tokens as well. And so it'd be a good addition to the launch that Chris went over for the initial launch of the farming campaign. And so if there's any ideas that people have around that, feel free to add on to the forum thread about it. If there's any tweaks or improvements that can be done or changes, that would be great to discuss.
Awesome. Thank you, Sky. Any questions about the work pool? Perfect. I do have one more question for the farming campaigns in general. They ask, should we expect more campaigns from DXdao, or will Swapper token take that over?
Both. We should expect more farming campaigns with or without Swapper token. We will see some interesting stuff probably because we have multiple rewards. We can reward more than Swapper token, right? So I would say, there will be,
Yeah, and I think that people may not grasp how much like a platform, like a farming campaign like platform is. And so I think we think about like, oh, are you just going to distribute like DXD or Swapper? But it's really any ERC20 token to liquidity providers, right? And there's a lot of cool experimentation going on in this space now, as it gets to, I think some people are calling KPI tokens. But we've also been thinking about this in terms of conditional tokens. So you could imagine farming campaigns that are not necessarily like distributing some native token, but distributing a conditional token that goes up in value if some certain threshold is met. And it'd be a really great way to like incentivize all of your community members or your liquidity providers there. So I think more campaigns and more experimentations with like the types of things that we're distributing. Just the beginning.
Perfect. Any questions in closing for the Swapper farming campaigns?
I want to close with something. Like there is a big difference of when we built farming for Swapper. Like if you look at farming on Sushi Swap or any other like swap service, it's always the company or the project behind it making these farms, right? We want to see more like in the wild farms or other projects doing farms at Swapper. So I would say us doing farming is, yes, like the goal is bringing users, making the liquidity go up, but also like we're demoing the features, right? So we want to demo like what can be done. So I would say we'll keep demoing stuff and make stuff better until like it's like all like community doing it. So that's like the goal.
Perfect. Thank you. Moving on to open questions, and we don't have an incredible amount of time left. Does anyone have any general questions that might not have been fitting the narrative previously? I can get started with a couple that I had from here. First one is just when Arbitrum? I guess, John, you'd probably be the best to answer that.
Sure thing. Yeah, Arbitrum is something we have been anticipating for a while. Obviously, we're fully in on XDAI, but we're excited about the prospect of layer 2 that ties security to the Ethereum chain and also allows for the full EVM compatibility or close to it, so that we can easily deploy products to that layer 2. And so Arbitrum recently came out with an announcement setting a date for when their mainnet would be available for developers to play with. So that date is May 28th. And so that's what we're pushing towards. Now we are deployed on their testnet. The Swapper squad has deployed Swapper to the testnet, that is, and Augusto has been working on DXvote and deploying that to the Arbitrum testnet as well. So kind of the two essential pieces here for Swapper to go to Arbitrum are a governance base for DXdao and then the product itself. So yeah, that's all being worked on, and we're aiming to be ready to deploy on mainnet with Arbitrum when that is live May 28th. Now that's sort of a soft date, I think, and then the plan from Arbitrum was to open up the mainnet to actual users at some time after that, right? So like May 28th is like the gates open for development to come in and kind of set up, and then I think Arbitrum is going to be monitoring how that goes, and when they feel like they're at a good point, they'll set another date for when it truly goes live for the end user. So yeah, we want to be there day one, and that's what we're working towards.
Awesome, thank you. Question from Lead Parachutes. Any significant partnerships in the works, particularly that we do not know about? I'm not sure, maybe Sky might be a good one to answer.
Yeah, so one of the most immediate ones is really doing more with the XDAI stakeholder community. So we're figuring out ways to, like, with Swapper farming, bringing more attention to Swapper on XDAI and growing the DEX ecosystem there is a stated objective in general of like the XDAI and stake community. And so you saw some stuff recently with maybe some grants of stake going from their Echo Fund to Sushi. There are plans to get incentives for going to Swapper pools as well. And in tandem with that, like eventually when it's ready, there could be incentives for Omen product as well. Anything that will help bring users to the products that are running on XDAI, I think the XDAI community is excited about. And so look to hear more about that stuff coming out. And then there's a few other ideas with different projects. Some are going to take some time. Obviously, like DXdao has plans to diversify or start using like yield seeking protocols for its treasury, and that can be things like Compound, Aave, Yearn, for example. And so with some of those teams, there's discussions going on, and there's other initiatives that we can do in tandem with some of those teams or those communities in order to like leverage DXDAO's products as well, such as like Swapper pools or farming on Swapper pools. And so yeah, there's a handful of discussions going on, but in general, we're implementing like a more structured DXBiz, which includes like partnerships structure. Join the Monday call for more learnings about how that process is being structured and going, and you'll hear presentations about some of these the higher priority initiatives. And then it's also a great opportunity to bring new ideas for partnerships and integrations and potentially investments from DX Ventures and stuff also bring those ideas to the DXdao community. So ideally, people that know what DXdao is doing and are aware of all the crazy, interesting stuff that's happening out there can be some of the people that link the things together. And so even if you're not a full-time focused on DXdao, you can bring amazing ideas around partnerships and introduce those ideas to the DXdao community. And then we can, put that in the process and follow through on those. And so, yeah, please come bring those to DXdao Discord, Keybase, or forum posts. Forum posts are always the best. If you have a great idea, writing and explaining your idea in a forum post is the best way to kick things off. So, yeah.
Thanks, Guy. And related to that, the last question I have here is there an update on DX Ventures?
Is there? So there's an article coming out that will be on DX Ventures' new medium, and it's summarizing the first opportunity that DX Ventures has entered into with Opolis, and it also points out a number of the learnings from this very new process that DX Ventures is and this idea, and the learning about what DX Ventures is focused on and how the process works and how to get a deal done has taken a bit of time, but we've learned a lot of good lessons. And so outlining those and using that knowledge for future initiatives is very helpful. And so more and more we will probably get better at what DX Ventures is trying to accomplish, and we'll be able to execute on these things faster. And if certain bars are fit, those opportunities can make sense. And that's the update. But we don't have any immediate. There's a few potential new opportunities for DX Ventures, none that are specifically hot right now, but those ideas and teams that are building things that solve problems for DXdao, those people should come enter the community and propose those ideas to DX Ventures for sure.
Perfect, guys. Just over the top of the hour here. Any questions in closing? Awesome. Perfect. We'll call it there. Thank you, everyone, for attending. If you haven't already, take a look at the POAP link, which I will link again here, and make sure you claim it. No time date to claim yet, but maybe in the future. And if you missed it now, which you probably didn't, or are hearing this on the call later, this will be on DXdao's social media, including Twitter and Discord shortly. Awesome. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
See you later.
Bye.